back once again to the HR Social Hour Half Hour Podcast. This is episode 23. John and Wendy talk to our international blogger friends, part 2. I'm John.
And I'm Wendy. How are you tonight, John?
I am well. Let's pull the curtain back. We are doing a mega session recording. We're recording the bumpers for episode 22 and 23 together, and Wendy's like, oh, we don't have to record another closing, but we do because I mention people by name, and that's my fault. Yeah. So shame on me.
Well, and then I happen to mention that our chat is on Thursday night, which is not true.
Yeah, it's not, and it's a rumor, folks. Don't believe it. It's not changing. That's not happening. We talked a little bit though in the last episode. We did have an opportunity to talk to several blogger friends from around the world. And so this is the second part of that conversation. So you're going to hear from 3 folks in this episode: Mofota Sefali, Anish Aravind, and Renee Robson. They were all just so much fun to talk to. Wendy, I don't know about you. I learned. We talked in the last episode. I learned something from everybody, but it was so much fun talking to these folks. And I'm really glad we're able to share with the listeners.
No, I definitely agree. It was awesome to get a chance to talk with them on that one-on-one. You know, as I was looking at the team afterwards, I didn't realize how many international folks were on the blog team, which is just phenomenal. So hopefully, next year, we get invited back and we can meet a few more.
I agree. It was a great perspective, and like we said before, we learned a lot of the people issues, but it's great to get yet more perspective on what's going on out there. Several times I think in this show you're going to hear that people are likening the United States to working in multiple countries for them, and I thought that was a really interesting comment as well, that we don't think about interstate necessarily as being so different, but some of them had that perception, which I thought was really interesting too.
Right. No, I totally agree.
So we will let those get launched, and we'll see you on the back end. Welcome back once again. We are still here at SHRM18 talking to some of our international friends from the blog squad. And Wendy, I'll let you make a bit of an introduction, and we will start.
Wonderful. We are so excited to have Mofota here. And she joined us for brunch on Saturday, so I got to meet her in person then. Very exciting. She brought me beautiful, beautiful earrings from South Africa, where she is from. So we will let you do your 30-second elevator pitch about you. Then we'll jump right in. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Thank you very much, John and Wendy, for having me. How I always like to describe myself is, first of all, I am a child of God. I'm a big believer. Then I'm Tawana's mom. My 10-year-old, he's absolutely everything to me, a blessing. And I am a talent acquisition specialist. I am a friend. I am a sister. I am everything outside of that. I'm an African. I like to describe myself as Pan-African because I represent more than just, one country in Africa.
Wonderful. Well, welcome. So excited to have you.
Thank you.
We always start with, how did you get involved? So what led you to get into talent acquisition?
So I got into talent acquisition by fluke. I was an investment consultant at Investec. It's an investment bank in South Africa, and I took a sabbatical, and I pretty much didn't know what to do with my life. And a friend of mine said, hey, try this out. I think it would be really great for you. All you have to do is, meet candidates out and take them out for coffee. I thought, meet candidates, talk to them, and just take them out for coffee. That's the actual job. And she's like, yeah. So I was like, okay, that's a job that I can definitely do. So I met with her boss. It was a specialist financial services recruitment agency, and global one based in the UK, but offices in South Africa. And that's how I started, and I loved it from day one.
Wow. I don't know if we've ever had anyone go from investment banking to recruitment.
Talent acquisition.
Talent acquisition. That's all. I love that. Obviously, we are very big on networking here. We love connecting professionals to each other and meeting people as well. Talk to us about how networking has helped you as a professional.
Networking has definitely expanded my world. If I may borrow from the SHRM theme, it's expanded my world in that possibly had been exposed to networking by my parents, who moved around a lot. My dad worked for SADC, so we moved around Southern Africa a bit. So I changed schools. I went to 3 different primary schools, 3 different high schools, 3 different tertiary institutions. So, you just have to kind of make new friends as you go along. And so that's me. I'm able to connect with people easily. I find, it easy to strike conversations, and that's pretty much what I've done. I go out and to different events, and I just start speaking to people. I pick up their business cards, but I do find that I am a target. I target my networking, so I know why I want to speak to a specific person and things like that. So it's expanded my world. It's made my network bigger, and those people have played a vital role in my career in South Africa, in how I have grown. Some of them have become my career coaches, some of them have become life coaches and things like that. But it's just made my world bigger, and it's made it better.
Awesome.
Yeah.
One of the things that we like to talk a lot about in Mofota is in terms of giving back to the HR community, the talent acquisition community. Can you talk a little bit about what you do and how do you enjoy giving back?
So what I do and how I enjoy giving back is really related to the profession itself, and what I have offered is free services to people who are starting work in my country. And pretty much what I do is I chat to people about how to actually put together a CV. And things like that we take for granted. We think that everyone can put together a CV because we've been in this industry for so long. I find that people who are about to graduate and they're looking for jobs, the kind of questions that they ask are a bit sensitive, and sometimes maybe they don't want to consult Google because they trust that a talent acquisition person will know what good looks like. So that's how I do it. And I also, I mentor young people in our profession. And also just very recently with Next Chat, I've had a group of people in my fraternity say to me, we kind of like what you're doing on Next Chat. You've been so passionate about it. We want to raise our profiles a little bit more on Twitter. So what I'm doing is I've got this mini Africa team. I've got about 5 people that when I do get back, I actually have to send them the questions for tomorrow. When I get back, I need to really help them to structure it. For me, it's easy because it's question, answer, and then you use the hashtag. I didn't realize that for some people it goes quite fast, and they're going, but I was still trying to answer question 1 and you're on question 7. Nobody's responding to me and things like that. So that's how I'm really plowing back into our community, just to really help others enjoy it and help others come along the journey with me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We always have some get to know you questions. So what is your favorite movie?
That is such a difficult question because there are so many movies that I like. My favorite movie of all time, I watch movies over and over again. Can I talk to you about what I've recently watched and I really enjoy it?
Sure.
Girls Trip. I am a little late. I know it came out sometime last year, but I did get it on DVD. Okay. I was busy. I mean, it was manic just with my son and work and everything else. I was starting a new job and everything. So I managed to get it on DVD, and Tiffany Haddish just killed me. So right now I am totally Girls Trip, yeah.
How about your favorite musician or band?
Sure. That's also a very hard one because I listen to a very wide range of music. I mean, I go from gospel to country music. I listen to Baganga, I listen to African music. My parents, I think with my brothers, I have 4 brothers. In each of one of our bedrooms, there would always be music playing in the background. But if I were to then narrow it down and say, what's my favorite track right now? It's Damian Marley, that's Bob Marley's son. Yeah, so his latest album. I love Autumn Leaves. I love that track.
Oh.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
How about a favorite TV show?
Favorite TV show, I will say at the moment is Queen Sugar.
Queen Sugar.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm loving the series. Season 3 has just started, and I love how Ava DuVernay has produced it and things like that. The content is great.
Is it a South African show?
No, it's an American show.
Okay.
It's an Oprah Winfrey Network show.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why I love Oprah Winfrey Network's stuff is. So there's hardly any profanity. The content is still really intriguing. It's amazing. You really get stuck into it. So, things like Greenleaf, Queen Sugar, and everything that's coming out of that network is really, really good stuff.
Wonderful. We'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, since we're here at the conference,
yes,
one of the things we're adding is, what's been your favorite part of SHRM18?
My favorite part definitely has to be meeting with you guys. Every single person that I've interacted with on NextChat, and it's been such an honor just being a blogger. It's unbelievable. I was saying to Mary this morning that I feel like I need someone to pinch me to wake me up, because I remember these people from NextChat and I'm seeing them in real life. We're taking selfies. The conference is actually happening. So meeting the HR tribe is the best part. Yeah.
We feel the same way.
Thank you.
We do. This is kind of our special international episodes here. So why come to a conference in the U.S.?
U.S. I have never been here.
There's a good reason.
So it's my first time in the U.S. So I thought, why not go to the U.S. for a conference to learn? So it's dual. It's both work, it's both personal. So I get to experience a country that I don't think I've ever had an American dream, but I do respect what America puts out. So we've been followers in a lot of, it's pop culture, growing up and things like that. So I've always had some admiration for the country. So putting together SHRM and putting together America in one conference just made sense. It's also really trying to get global best practice, getting thought leaders to really help me with my current role. And what I'm going to try to do from this is then to go and adapt and apply everything that I've learned into my local context.
Wonderful.
So speaking of local content, Wendy and I do not work internationally.
Okay.
So one of the things that we're curious about is, what are the differences or even the similarities? What have you seen when it comes to talent acquisition and HR at home as opposed to the United States, and what have you seen?
So definitely I have seen stuff. I mean, I think from a NextChat, what I noticed is that our practices in South Africa are not that far behind everyone else. There have been some instances, just maybe with applicant tracking systems and onboarding and digitalization of stuff where we are slightly more or on the same level as everyone else or advanced than other people. So that's been interesting in that we're not literally just a continent that's down there and we're totally disconnected from the world. So I guess those are the similarities. The differences are probably cultural. I find, and I learned this in marketing, I studied marketing, and the one thing that one always has to think about is who's your target audience, how different are they, and remember everyone is going to come back, it's coming up from the values that they have, how they've been raised, and those are the differences, between all of us. Culturally we're different, so we need to understand how people do things. So I'm a hugger, but I learned from yesterday's session with I think it's Jonathan Siegel, that hugging in the US could be seen as something else. So those are kind of the things, the nuances that I'm looking at and going, let me first of all just see how things, when you're in Rome, do as the Romans do, learn, and then throw myself and my, be authentic once I've seen what's comfortable.
Wonderful. So our final question to you is, if you were not in HR or talent acquisition, what do you think you would be doing professionally?
Gosh, if I was not in talent acquisition and in HR, I would probably, if I could be anything I wanted to be.
Yeah, there you go.
If I could be anything I wanted to be, I would probably be an actress.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. I'd probably be an actress.
And have your own show on the Oprah Winfrey Network,
I
right?
would probably. I'd be doing some, production work. I would be chatting to Oprah. I'd be trying to chat to Oprah. Just say, Oprah, here's my content. I think I'd also, so maybe I'd be looking at African stories, maybe African girl stories, how they've come up, just to really ensure that, the world knows and the world is exposed and the world can see how we came up. So to find, back to the previous questions, the differences and the similarities and things like that. And I think the reason I probably do that as well is a lot of Africa's history is not documented. So that would also not just be for, current consumption, but it would also be for future consumption, to give, the future generation a little bit of history.
Sure.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to figure out how to network you up for Oprah. We'll use what Adam Grant was sharing and
Yes.
see who. We have to know somebody who knows Oprah,
You
right?
never know. Let's try
Right?
that. Let's try that. Is that the Gravitas website? Let's
Yes,
try that. Yeah,
yes.
let's try that.
I'm
Let's
trying
do
to remember
this.
what it was. So let's see if we can't get you connected to
Let's
Oprah.
do this.
That'd be a big win.
Yes, totally.
Well, Mofota, we were so excited that you were able to join us.
Yes.
We talked before we started recording. You said this is your first podcast. I would have never believed you.
Really.
You did great.
Yes.
Thank you.
But this is your chance now. How would you like our listeners to be able to find you on the internet?
Okay, so I am at Mofota on Twitter, and LinkedIn I am Mofota Sefali. So thankfully you're going to spell that because
Yes.
it's a lot.
Yes, we will have it in our show notes
Yes.
for sure.
I'm happy to have people follow me on Twitter and connect with me on LinkedIn.
Great.
Wonderful.
Well, again, Mofota, welcome to the United States. We're
Yes.
so glad you could join us, and we will see you next time.
Yep.
Thank you very much, John and Wendy.
Hey everybody, welcome back once again to the HR Social Hour Half Hour Podcast. Another special edition from SHRM18. We're live in the Bloggers Lounge talking with another one of our international blogger friends. Excited to be able to introduce Anish Aravind to you. I have to say I think Anish is the most connected Facebook man I've ever met. He's the most active Facebook guy I think I've ever seen. But Wendy, let's say a few words and we'll get started.
Yeah, very excited to have Anish on the show. Excited to have met you here at SHRM18.
Same here.
Yeah, following you for a while. So why don't you give us your 30-second elevator pitch, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we can jump into the questions.
Wonderful. Thanks for having me, Wendy and John. I mean, it's exciting to be part of the SHRM Bloggers and exciting to be part of my first ever podcast as well. To me, I've been an HR professional for the last 19 years. I'm trying to connect learning for myself as I go ahead, and social and learning, and how can you use social media to improve learning, and that's what I've been trying to help clients connect people, technology, and culture in the last 3.5 years, and we based out of Kerala, which is the southern end of India, and after 16.5 years of working in various corporates, we decided that we should give something back to the community around us, and there was this IT, small and medium enterprises back in my state who were in various phases of growth between, let's say, their 5th and 10th year. Those are the people whom we support now, and enjoying ourselves.
Wonderful.
You mentioned you'd been in the industry for 19 years. How did you get into human resources to start?
Okay, so it was, I have to say it has been an accident of sort. I got into a program which is in management, and then I couldn't go through the whole program to the first year. That's how it happens in India. And during the first year, an interviewer on the selection panel talked to me about, so I was talking to them about my wanting to get into social responsibility as a need, and so they were asking me about, have you heard of this programs? There are some management programs. So I said I hadn't. So I looked them up, and I realized that HR was a way of giving back at that point of time, giving back to the community in a different line, and that's what brought me into further studying the subject. And the next year I got into the program, which is a 2-year full-time program. So just through the program, just got placed into my first job. Been enjoying ever since, contributing to adding value to businesses.
Awesome.
There it goes.
How have you been able to use networking to help you professionally?
Let me put it this way. Whatever I've learned now, always been through the networks. So I strongly believe in that whole thing. Network is your net worth. I know it's not my thing. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. So that's that. I think that I can completely connect to that, and let's take how I came into SHRM for that matter. Mm-hmm. It was through my HR leader back in my job. That was my 4th job. They had the headquarters in Maryland, Columbia, Maryland, and when I came visiting, I was involved in social HR activities back in Kerala. So this person mentioned that you should be looking at SHRM as a thing. And then first SHRM conference I attended, I happened to get into the networking group of SHRM bloggers. There you go.
Nice.
You mentioned briefly, Anish, a little bit about giving back. Can you talk a little bit more about how you enjoy giving back from it within HR in your community?
If I let me look at it in a different way. I'm looking at it from a selfish piece again. Okay. By giving back, I think I am learning the most. The more I give, the more I learn. so I'm in a kind of a race to give back more so that I can learn more. So if you look at it, then it increases the network. So and one quotient which I keep tracking is the diversity within the network. So the more you give back, the more opportunities you get to give back to diverse people. It's more learning. So there you go. So and it's always excited to continue to meet. This trip alone, I would have made maybe around 40, 50 new friends.
Sure.
So and I feel they're giving more to me, and I need to give back. So excited.
Awesome. So, what's your favorite movie?
Anything that so the one that comes up right now with The Blind Side.
Okay, that's a good one.
So the theme is that anything that would I feel is getting a team to do better. Mm-hmm. So this is one strong theme around this, and that gets so The Blind Side comes on top of the mind right now. So
I love it.
How about your favorite musician or band?
Oh, that's a tough one. The musician would be Phil Collins.
Wow. Okay.
That was because that was around the time when I started listening to English music back then in my childhood. So Another Day in Paradise, and those are the songs which really, so Phil Collins would stand in as.
What about a famous Indian musician? Let's spread the wealth here. Get some international music on.
There's a singer named Yeshudas who's back home. He's one of the very famous ones, and then that he's been the one who's still he's known back there as the evergreen singer.
Okay.
So he must be around 70 plus now.
Oh wow.
So that's he would be my favorite.
Cool. Get some different perspectives. Our other international guests have all named American things as well, and I was like, well, let's spread it out a little bit. So, do you have a favorite TV show?
Not really.
No.
I'm not a
TV person.
Not a TV person. Yeah.
Well, obviously we are at the conference, and we talked about favorites. What's your favorite part been of the conference so far this year?
My favorite part has been the Bloggers launch. So, and one of the things that connected me with the Bloggers launch is the Smart Stage. So, even when I was not part of the Bloggers team, and I used to belong to the Smart Stage and connect with friends there. So, I think that TED Talk type of thing, I'm more of that kind of I'd be able to grab more stuff from those things and then connect to people better at those places. So, Smart Stage, Bloggers launch would be would keep coming back for more of those.
Awesome. As someone who, there's obviously a SHRM group in India that you're a part of. Why come to the U.S. for a conference?
See, people have been asking me that sometime. In fact, I've convinced Kavi now to come in
Right.
for this time. So my piece has been that I've looked at U.S. as a place where knowledge is kind of packaged really well. Why packaging is important? Because then you will be able to get to the nuances quicker. Mm-hmm. You identify what's good packaging is important to understand what's all, because there's so many stuff going on. So once and I feel that SHRM has been on the forefront of packaging knowledge really well from the time I think it was in 2008 when I first connected to the whole thing. First conference has been very good, and I realized that first I looked at let me try attempting attending it once every 2 years. Now I'm glad that I'm able to attend every year, so I would keep coming back for more for knowledge. I think
Awesome.
that's the other thing. So.
That's great.
Now, Wendy and I do not practice international HR. We work obviously in the United States. Personally, what are the big differences that you see, and even the similarities between what we do here in the United States and what you're doing at home in India, from an HR perspective?
See, the challenges are usually similar. I don't see any major. The way I look at it is, human brain is just one. We're just one species. Because I'm a birder, I now understand about. I can identify about 400 species of birds. Human beings is just one Homo sapiens. Of course, there is Homo erectus and other things, which are the Neanderthals and others. But at the moment, from the HR perspective, it's one. So from a brain level, we're all the same. If in that sense, that's where the similarity. And of course, there are emotion aspects which are different in cultures and stuff. But so there's a lot of similarity. But the context of one, say, even within India, we have 29 states. So, like US, the context can be different. But I'm more looking at the similar aspects. I would say people are the same. So.
Yeah.
It's good to hear that from someone else.
Yeah. We've talked about that, like different industries, how people issues are people issues are people issues, and I think you're just saying that's the same. It doesn't matter what country you're in, what laws there are. Our people issues are going to be very, very similar. If you weren't doing HR, what do you think you'd be doing professionally?
I would be a digital marketer.
Oh, okay.
So
I think you'd be good at it.
Yeah. Because that's something which it's been about 4 or 5. Yeah, it is 2012 from where I've started observing what's happening in the trend, and I found that the big advertising firms have not really caught on to digital marketing. So that's when I stepped and went deeper, and thanks to people like you and from the SHRM Bloggers, I said, okay, this is again trying more result-oriented digital marketing is what I've been. And in fact, I have clients waiting for me to look at it. And so what I've told them is that let me do my HR stuff first, and then we'll do it. Yeah. So this is why when the question came in, this is the first thing in my mind. Thanks.
Awesome.
Well, Anish, we were so excited that we were able to sit down and talk a little bit more and get to know you. And again, appreciate you sharing your perspective, because I think our listeners, many of which here in the United States, it's good for them to hear that, again, as we talked about, things are maybe not so very different.
Absolutely.
If those folks want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to reach you online?
Twitter is the best way to reach me. I'm hashtag Anish Aravind on Twitter. I am present also on Facebook and LinkedIn as well, but Twitter is my preferred mode. And within the SHRM network in India, we have direct messages. That's the in ping, and we don't even WhatsApp or call each other. So
Well,
Twitter.
we will be sure to add that to the show notes. And
Yes.
That would be great.
So thank you for taking part.
Yes,
Thank you for the
Hopefully
opportunity.
we will see you again very soon.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, welcome back once again to the HR Social Hour Half Hour Podcast. Another live from SHRM18 edition with one of our international blogger friends. Super excited to have Renee with us. And Wendy, take it from here.
Yeah, so Renee is out of Australia, right?
Yeah.
And we're super excited to be having the international connection going at SHRM18. She brought the youngest blogger ever to SHRM18 with her son, which was exciting to see him last night. So Renee, give us your 30-second elevator pitch about who you are and what you do.
Okay, excellent. I'm actually a Kiwi. I live in Australia. I've been there 5 years though, and our accents are almost interchangeable. Look, I get really excited by being around people that love what they do. That's why I like HR. So I started out in L&D, moved into HR, love it. And I'm one of those people that I get like overly excited when I'm around people that are passionate about what they do, which is why I love being a part of the blogging crew.
Awesome.
How did you get started initially in L&D and make that move to HR, Renee?
I'm one of those perennial, I fell into it type of people. I started out wanting to be a journalist, so I went to university and studied media and communications, and then almost in my final year was like, oh, yeah, this is not what I want to do. So I moved to my hometown and I got a job at the tax department, of all places, and worked there 3 months collecting child support from people, which was fun. good work stories though.
Sure.
And then moved into L&D. So I started presenting and writing training, and from there it kind of just snowballed. I realized that I have a real passion for this space, and I'm kind of okay at it, which is a really good combo.
That's awesome. Talk to us a little bit about networking, how it's helped you in your professional career, why you love it. Obviously, you love it.
I started probably properly networking not until I was about to move to Australia. So I'd been working in New Zealand, and my husband and I decided to move to Melbourne, and we thought, yeah, we can do this. I know people in Melbourne, so we get over there. I get into my first HR role there, and had this oh crap moment when I realised that my entire professional network were in New Zealand, and I didn't have those people to call. You know, like when you come up with a problem and you need to talk to someone in a similar role who can bounce things around with you. And I can do this. So I can go to a networking event, and I went to a few networking events, and most of them were dreadful, as I'm sure lots of people can relate with. And I went to one where the host got us to all get our phones out and join Twitter.
Oh.
And I did it, and to be honest, I was doing that internal cringe thing when you're like, oh, you're not going to make me participate in this, are you? But I did it, and I realized that I could kind of stand on the sidelines and watch other people share things. And it became way less scary to me. And then after a while, I started participating, and then I started blogging, and then all of a sudden the face-to-face networking things weren't nearly as scary to me, because I had connections with people, and I could, from a safe place, explore new ideas. I'm actually a little bit of an introvert by nature. I could explore something, think about it, and then converse with people about it. That's how I've kind of got into this space, and I've become more and more comfortable with then having the off-the-cuff discussions with people.
You and I right there. That's me. You just, yeah, all right, so I'm done. I don't need to do any more.
Renee, how do you like to give back to the HR community?
In a few ways. I think it's really important for us as our profession evolves and grows to be able to continually evaluate where we're at and contribute to that discussion. So I do that through blogging and speaking, but probably the most valuable way is through engaging in mentoring programs. So I've been a part of the ARI, so the Australian HR Institute. I've been a part of their mentoring program, and I've also done it informally and formally through a couple of other networks. I think I've gotten way more out of that than my mentees ever have, especially when people are a lot younger than yourself, and you can hear different things that are being taught at university, and you realise how different the environment is for people coming through, 10, 15 years after, or however long after your career first started. And the value that I've gotten out of that for how I see things is just tenfold.
So what's your favorite movie?
Okay, so it's a toss-up, right? Okay. On one hand, a couple of years ago, my husband and I rewatched Annie, the original.
Oh, okay.
And I hadn't seen it for like 20-something years. I watched it, and it was like I knew every single line. It was like I was watching my childhood in HD. It was the weirdest sensation. So I have to say that. But also the best Christmas movie ever made, Die Hard.
Hashtag Die Hard is not a Christmas movie.
Oh, wow. That has come up a lot in our conversations. Not on the show necessarily, but it is.
Yes.
We thought about making it a question, is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Yeah.
We may have to do that.
I think we do.
How about your favorite musician or band?
I'm a bit of a music for fun's sake.
Okay.
So I have to say Beyonce. So HR Jazzy and I were getting very excited ahead of the conference, and I heard she did just drop a new album last week, which I haven't listened to yet because, sorry Beyonce, I'm not on Tidal. Will do later.
I love it. Favorite TV show?
I've got a bit of a list. I'm an escapist, if you couldn't tell by my movie choices.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm really into Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh, that's a good one.
I love Broad City.
Okay.
And new find is Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency. Have either of you seen it?
No.
It is bloody brilliant. It's completely off the wall, and one of those things that you don't want to read anything about before you watch.
Okay.
It is bizarre, but absolute gold, so highly recommend it.
Awesome.
I won't tell you anymore because it'll completely ruin it for you. Check it out.
We're at the conference, obviously, and that's a question we've added for this conversation. Is what's your favorite part of SHRM18?
I've been to one other SHRM event before, SHRM18 in Washington.
Where we met before. That's
Yes.
where we met originally. Yes.
Yep. And so I've been able to reconnect with quite a few people in real life that I had met with real life before. But I think my favorite thing has been able to see speakers and people that I hadn't seen before, like, because there are so many different tracks and there's so many different things going on. I love having part of a schedule and then going, what do I feel like now, and talking to someone random in the hallway and going, what are you going to, why are you excited about that, and then just heading in. And I think sometimes I've just seen absolute gold out of that. And the other part is the smart stage, because you can just rock up and you don't know what you're going to see, and you can just love it and find some gold and meet people in the audience. So yeah, they're my highlights.
Awesome. So since you've come to SHRM before, why come to a conference in the U.S.?
It is a long way to go.
Yeah.
It's an especially long way to go with Milo, who's 10
Right.
months. So there's a bit of a selfish reason. My little brother lives in the States. He lives in
okay.
California, so whenever I come over, I always combine it with a trip to see him. But probably more so is because I think HR is becoming more and more global. So I went to a sexual harassment session the other day, which was brilliant, by the way, and I was sitting there, and our laws are like completely different in this space, right? In Australia, bullying is illegal and the penalties are huge. Australia's really, really legislated. And I was sitting there, and like 95% of what was being discussed was directly applicable to my practice at home. The other thing is I work across 4 countries, so Australia, New Zealand, Hong Kong and Singapore.
Okay.
And because of that international nature and my company's global, I think there are more and more things that are and other people's roles are becoming more global as well. I think the lineup here really services that. So that's why I come so far for this conference.
Good. I'm glad that you do.
Hoping you can expand maybe a little bit on that. Wendy and I are not global practitioners, and it's been fascinating to talk to you and to other folks that are here as part of the blog squad that do practice elsewhere. Can you talk a little bit more about the differences and the similarities with what you see and what you've learned here as far as U.S. Application as opposed to in the global picture?
Absolutely. One of the things that I think is probably a little bit unique to Australia is that they've had like this crazy boom economy for a very long time. And I think one of the things that's created in the workplace is, sorry Australia, is a real complacency in always having enough money to go round, sometimes hiring additional people for what might not be required. And what I think I get a huge amount out of here is that everyone comes together, everyone's operating in different economies and different kinds of industry, and the lessons that people learn that you can go back and apply. That's probably one biggie. The other one for me is operating across different legal contexts. So New Zealand's very deregulated, so that's where I started practicing HR. Australia's very regulated and then has different laws in each state. Not as many states as the US, but still, we need to think about it.
Sure.
Those are the things that being able to be agile enough to operate across those environments is a really valuable skill. And I think people in the States often discount themselves a little bit. Like, I think of operating across different countries like you talk about operating across different states.
Right, right.
Yeah, it's
Makes
very,
sense.
very similar, and there's a lot of things that are just consistent as gravity across all things, like how to recruit good talent, about how to have great performance conversations and develop your managers.
So our final question to you is, if you weren't in HR or L&D, what do you think you'd be doing professionally?
I hate this question because I really don't know, because I love what I do so much.
Sure.
I don't think I'd consider doing anything else. But if I was going to, aside from winning lotto and living on a beach, obviously, I'd be driving my husband insane by adopting lots and lots of shelter animals. I have a cocker spaniel, and they're often in puppy farms because they used to make spoodles, which are a really popular dog in pet shops. And I love them to pieces, and I would be hoarding them all and have like a house full of dog poo, I imagine.
Oh gosh. Did you talk with Jonathan Siegel at all?
We do a lot of retweeting
I'm
about
sure
animal
you do.
rights.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Well,
awesome.
Renee, we are so thankful that you were able to make it
Yep.
and to bring Milo and to see your husband. This is your chance, though, before we wrap up, for you to let our listeners know what's the best way to reach you online.
Definitely Twitter. So I'm Renee Robson on Twitter and also on LinkedIn. So I really, really love connecting with people globally. I think there's a huge amount that we can do to collaborate and learn from each other, and I'm always keen to help out other HR practitioners around the space.
Great.
Awesome.
We will put that in the notes. Again, appreciate it. Safe travels home.
Thank you so
We'll
much.
See you soon.
Ta.
Thanks, Renee.
And we're back. Hope you enjoyed those conversations with Mofota, Anish, and Renee. They gave us their contact information. They'll be in the show notes. Want to take the opportunity again to thank them, to thank our other international guests for taking time to be part of the show. And I hope those of you listening, I hope you gained some great perspective, maybe learned something about somebody maybe that you get a chance to, if not meet down the road, at least in chats and things that you see folks out there, you get to know a little bit more about them. Wendy, what's the best way for our listeners to get in touch with you?
Best way to get in touch with me is on Twitter. I am Wendell93. You can also find me on my blog, mydailyjourney.com. Daily is D as in dog, AILEY. You're also welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. Just send me a personalized message letting me know you heard us on the podcast. You'll also find me on the HR Social Hour chat on Twitter the fourth Sunday of each month, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. How about you, John?
Twitter, John, Jon_Thurmond, THURMOND. Always happy to connect on LinkedIn. And again, just make the personalized note. I always really appreciate when I get those. If you have a comment or question about the show or chat, send us an email, hrsocialhourpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook if you search HR Social Hour. Find the show at hrsocialhourpodcast.podbean.com. We're also on iTunes, Podbean, Podchaser, hrpodcasters.com, Google Play, TuneIn, and Spotify. And Jerry Mathers is the Beaver. If you like what you hear, be sure to rate and review, because again, it helps us get more visibility and continue to build our community. Again, we appreciate everybody listening to these episodes. Appreciate you giving us a little bit of flexibility when it came to sound. We hope that you enjoyed what you heard. You learned something like we did. Appreciate you being along for the ride with us. So for the HR Social Hour Half Hour Podcast, I'm John.
And I'm Wendy. And as always, be sure to connect,
Give back, and network.
network.
Take care, everyone.
We'll see you soon.